Hello, my name is Damon Friedman, co-founder and president of SOF Missions. As a 20-year veteran within Special Operations, I've gone through many challenges due to my military service and time in combat. We felt called to start SOF Missions to serve our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, focusing on suicide prevention and resiliency. Our mission at SOF Missions is to empower warriors to find purpose and be resilient. Since 2011, when we started the organization, almost 3 million men and women have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the scars of war take a toll on their psychological, physical, social, and spiritual health. Many veterans feel a sense of hopelessness and a loss of purpose when they return to civilian life. They feel isolated and alone, unable to reconnect. And in the greatest of tragedies, over 20 veterans lose all hope and take their own lives. Our goal at SOF Missions is to provide veterans the tools and resources so that they don't become a statistic. We offer a unique approach to combating veteran suicide through a whole health, intradisciplinary model. The Be Resilient program is a 4-pillar methodology that addresses the areas of psychological, physical, social, and spiritual wellness. We provide care through 3 delivery methods: medical clinics, retreats, and educational training. Since we started back in 2011, we have been able to reach veterans in all 50 states and have served over 3,000 veterans through the Be Resilient program. Being resilient is a multifaceted and complex issue. We know that to find a lasting solution, we have to address the whole warrior. Many challenges cannot be solved by providing the treatments and modalities of just one component, but by tackling them all. Now, we've expanded our services to include law enforcement and first responders. Together, we can make a lasting impact in the lives of warriors across the nation. To learn more, visit our website at sofmissions.org.
Proceed to your post assignment. All units proceed to your post assignment.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, Stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation Show. It's a Sunday after dinner show, but most importantly, it's the first show of our Veterans Week shows, and we have a good one tonight. But before we start, of course, we start with our bad news up front. Tonight, we pay honor to 2 lost officers: Deputy Sheriff Devin Jaramillo, Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, Florida. End of watch Friday, November 7th, 2025. And Police Officer Roger Smith, Wake Med Campus Police and Public Safety Department in North Carolina, out of Raleigh. End of watch Saturday, November 8th, 2025. Let's keep those the families of those two officers, their friends, their peers, and of course their communities in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this sudden change of life. We know that every day they dress up, they put their uniform on, their families know there's a chance they may not come home, but they pray and hope it doesn't happen. It did happen these last 2 days, so let's keep them in your thoughts and prayers as we go forward. But tonight, we honor service, sacrifice, leadership, and the journey beyond the uniform. Like I said, this is the first of 5 Veterans Week shows, and we are joined by 2 remarkable guests. He served 31 years in Naval Special Warfare as a SWCC operator, leader, and mentor. She stood beside him through deployments, transitions, and new beginnings. Together, now, they serve United States Special Operators as they prepare for life after the service, after the military, with the Honor Foundation. This conversation is about identity, resilience, purpose, and the power of continuing the mission. So without further ado, let's welcome Dan and Stephanie Snyder to the Misfit Nation show. Welcome, Dan and Stephanie.
Well, hey, thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
It's great to have you here. I'm glad we're able to connect and get this thing going. I just gave basically not even an elevator speech pitch about you there, not even maybe the nickel speech about you there. If you don't mind, give us a little more from as far as you want to go back, why you entered service to how we got here.
Yeah. I joined the military in 1990, right after high school, 19 years old. When I first started high school, the movie Top Gun came out, and I looked like a pretty fun life for a kid who was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico at the time. And if you know me, one of my common themes I always say I crave to be near is palm trees and sea breeze. I yearned for to be in California. It was my dream to move to California, San Diego area, and be in the Navy. So I went to boot camp in 1990. And then after boot camp, went to intelligence school out in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I have to say, Virginia was kind of nice. They had palm trees, they had oceans, but it got cold. And I was there during the winter, and it was an interesting experience. And then from there, thinking I was going to live out my dream, I got assigned to an aircraft carrier, home ported out of Alameda, California. But much to my chagrin, it was in the yards up in Bremerton, Washington, which is about as far away as you can get from palm trees, but you get a lot of trees. And while I was there working, not as an intelligence specialist, but as someone who was on fire watch for shipyard workers and mess cranking and doing all the things and all the, entry level, things you go through when you first come into service as a young sailor. But it afforded me a lot of time off too, which probably was a bad thing, but I tried to use it for the best I could. And one of the things I did is I would go into Seattle, Washington, and hang around this was during the early grunge era, and hang around the different areas and listen to bands and stuff. And one night I went out to an under 21 nightclub because I wasn't quite 20. I was only 20 at this point. And ran into a beautiful lady standing in line at the under 21 nightclub, and scoped her out all night. And that's the night I met my wife, Stephanie. And we've been together ever since. Thankfully, we got married young at 21. We waited till my 21st birthday so I could drink legally at my wedding. It was a requirement of the parents. And we got married in a backyard wedding, and that was the beginning of a combined, joint exploration into what life was going to be like. And at that point, I deployed for my first deployment on the aircraft carrier Carl Vinson out of Alameda, California. Finally, we moved down there, and I enjoyed that deployment, but I just knew that wasn't the life I wanted anymore. I didn't want to be in the Navy. I didn't want to be on the regular gray hole Navy. And while I was out there on the Carl Vinson, just out in the Pacific. These guys came in from out of nowhere. They showed up. They put their boats up on our hangar bays, and a bunch of dudes working out in the gym. And they just seemed to have a different lifestyle than the life I was living on the ship. And I was trying to figure out who they were and what they did, and found out it was some special boat unit folks and platoon of SEALs. And I was like, I got to figure out how to get into that community. That led me to Colorado Springs, Colorado, where I got stationed there. Again, as far away from palm trees as possible. Not my dream, but while I was there, I had the opportunity to brief some folks at 10th Special Forces Group. And while I was there, I got recruited to a Naval Special Warfare Command out of Virginia Beach. And while I was there, I began my full transformation into the Naval Special Warfare community. Departed there, went to selection. And while I was in selection, 9/11 happened. So I was about the 10-year mark at this point. And that led to the rest of my career being in the special boat teams. Again, back to a SEAL team out of Virginia Beach, and then retiring out of Little Creek, Joint Base Little Creek in 2021.
It's a long journey to get there, and definitely you missed a lot of palm trees going to Colorado, and you probably got a lot of people go there too.
Yeah, I said trees. That's all that's the only. I said palm trees, and all they heard was trees, and they just kept sending me some great places with trees. It just wasn't the right ones until I finally went to San Diego and did a bunch of flutter kicks and let grown men yell at me and push me to new limits, and gladly and thankfully selected me to be a part of this great community in Naval Special Warfare.
Outstanding. And Stephanie, go ahead and share some of your story beyond the grunge days when you were wearing flannels and stuff and met them.
Beyond the grunge days. Life was a whole new world for me once I married Daniel. Have some family members that served in the military, but none of them were career military people. So I had been around them, and being that I lived very close to what was Fort Lewis, now it's Joint Base McChord. It was very eye-opening. Left everyone and everything I'd ever known when I married him. We moved to Northern California, and he deployed very shortly after we moved there. So it was a lot about finding my inner strength and what I could do on my own without having mom or dad right around the corner to come and help do things. So it was a great life. It was a great life. It taught me a lot about myself, and all the moves that we would go to. It was great getting out of the small town and small area that I had always grown up in, to be exposed to different places throughout the United States, just the cultures that are different in each state. It was hugely eye-opening to me.
I bet. And like you said, every state has different customs and norms. And no matter what people say, we are a very diverse country. So every state is very different. It's like I went to the Northwest to JBLM just last year for the first time. I grew up in the Northeast, and I nearly froze to death up there just to throw it out there. And I knew what snow was like, but I almost froze to death at JBLM working outside. I did not like it at all. I couldn't wait to get back on the plane back to Tennessee.
Yeah, it was a beautiful place to grow up in. I feel very fortunate that I was born and raised there. I still love going home, but now I've been away longer than I ever lived there. But it's still and always will be home to me. But like I said, the life of the military wife or spouse really exposed me and showed me a way of finding out that I could have family that weren't blood everywhere I went. And that really helped me through, the times that Dan was gone and I needed help, or I needed a shoulder or a suggestion, of where to go to for different resources. The other military spouses in the community really made it family.
it becomes the actual family that you have at the time, because usually
Absolutely.
most of our families are so far removed. Like mine was in New Jersey, and my wife was usually either I was in Korea with her, or I was in Korea alone and she moved with them. And things having an extra family around always helps. Or when I was deployed, having other wives or husbands that were home to help out and make sure, neither my dogs didn't cost me millions of dollars or anything happened to my kid while we're gone. It's always good to have them there. So I'm sure you had that same kind of growth, that great network around you every time he was on the float or gone.
Absolutely. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a kid. Well, it takes a village to raise a young military spouse also. And I definitely have lifelong friends to this day that I met, when we were dating, as a matter of fact. We still keep in touch with them. So, like I said, I am so incredibly thankful for the different experiences and the people that I've met through being a military spouse.
Definitely. And Dan, what was some of the most challenging deployments you had to go on? I mean, you were on kind of like me. I started in '93, so the first part of my career was kind of just trained to go to war, and then 9/11 happened, and we were just at war till the end of my career. What was some of the most challenging things for you while you were serving, and then of course when that transition happened from basically Cold War kind of status to full war status?
Yeah, it was quite the transition for sure when you think of the mindset and the geopolitical status and focus of the United States at the time, right? I was used to going to places, and doing basically show force visits, or doing humanitarian stuff and things like that, and then we led into where we were doing more direct actionable kind of things after 9/11. But it was interesting because it didn't happen right away. Even when I graduated from SWCC school and got sent to my first special boat unit, and that's what they were at the time when I graduated. They were special boat units, and they transitioned to special boat teams while I was there. But my first deployment was to Guam, and we pre-positioned out of Guam, and there was an effort called Operation Enduring Freedom Philippines that was going on, and we were being pulled out of Guam in support of efforts that were coming out of that task force and those headquarters. But it wasn't like the enemy I thought in my head that I should be going after, right? The kind of giving the guys who did this a what for what they had done to the United States. But there was a lot of growth in that time for me too, tactically understanding the tactics, organizationally understanding all the units and everyone that I was working with, and how they the unique roles that each one played, their contributions, and the key elements that they brought to the battle space. But also during that time, I got to understand a larger geopolitical picture as America's efforts were focused. So I have deployed to Iraq, I have deployed to Afghanistan, and those were defining for sure. But I think you say the most difficult one. It was a difficult one for me because I was growing up in the community, and I wanted the full fast pace, getting out there in the deserts of Afghanistan or on the rivers in Iraq, and I wanted to get after it. But really, what I was doing is I was making myself into a better teammate, leader, and had a greater appreciation for the holistic special operations community, the entirety of it, as how it works together. It's not this singular, just naval special warfare, not just, Army special operations, not just RSOF or the MORSOC folks. It's this combined effort, this joint effort amongst all of us, and how we have to work together. And that was a really good telling time for me. And it was a challenge because, like I said, my head was in the right space, but I was growing along the way, and nothing like immersion, right, to get you to grow up a little bit and learn. But that I would say that first one, I had expectations to go do something else, and I went out there, and we were busy enough, and we did good work. And when I reflect back on it now, I'm very happy that was my starting point. But at the time, man, you would think that I was a gorilla in a cage, and I could see freedom on the other side, the way I would beat my chest and argue with everyone about how we were being misused and not doing our part.
Oh, I understand that 100%. When 9/11 happened, I was already in Kuwait when 9/11 occurred, so we were doing patrols along the border. It happened. I didn't believe it was happening. I thought it was a lie. And then they sent us back home to train to go to the desert. And then they put us on the bench. So everyone else was getting to go to fight, and we were the ones on the bench. And you just feel like you're kicking and screaming, saying, "Why are we on the bench? Why are we on the bench?" And then you get sent back, and it's full throttle by the time we go back in 2003. And things are a lot different than it was in 2001, because we're now on the streets of Iraq, and things were nuts. So I understand completely what you're talking about there.
Yeah, it was 2003 when I was there, because I had graduated and I had done my workup cycle, my first, full interdeployment training cycle with the special warfare community. So, I had that time to also, sharpen myself as an operator and have a better appreciation for, the task and purpose that we were there and we were being sent out to do. It's just when we got, identified as being the Guam det, I just didn't understand why we weren't, like I had this Cold War, World War II kind of mentality that we would just surge everything upon the enemy. And there was obviously a bigger fight, there was insurgency everywhere. There was things that were going on even throughout the South Pacific that required our attention and our efforts. And we worked, combined with other nations. And that's another component that I think that was a good growth spurt for me there. Is I worked with so many other nations and their soft elements. I really got a greater appreciation for, the full might that can come together when, you just don't take it all on yourself. Because carrying the load by yourself is heavy. And as we know, and we always tout it in the special operations community, that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. It sounds cliche, but when you have more folks to work with you on the fight, to focus on, additional efforts to be containment forces and set up, close air support or whatever it is, to be that additional asset for you, you really reinforce the overall fighting resolve of the forces on the ground. And that is something I don't think I had an appreciation of until I had done that Guam deployment. But like I said, it wasn't a closed mouth, open ear type of thing, for the young man that was there. It was definitely a growth time. I mean, I think I maybe acquired some of that over time, but and maturity and experience. But you have to have that experience to be effective. And I'm thankful for it. But like I said, it was definitely probably my most stressful deployment.
Obviously, you understood with that deployment. You learned that, like you said earlier, the strategic side of things, and got a better appreciation for the global strategy that we were doing at that time, and still doing now. The global strategy that we're involved in now.
Yeah, definitely. You have to have partner nations involved. We recognize that. Again, I think that's something we didn't see at the time as young men. I mean, and that whole detachment was really young that I was a part of, from the officer in charge all the way down, to those of us who were the new guys in the detachment. It was tough for us to be completely on board with what we were doing. We were on board and we were going to do it, and we were going to do it the best we knew how. And we wanted to be effective and we wanted to be relevant in the environment and the opportunities that came our way. But every time we worked with one of our combined partners, it was a greater appreciation, like you said, to the global strategy. And, this wasn't just a solo fight. Just because we suffered the big punch, the whole world was affected, and there was many people who were willing to stand at our side and commit the same kind of commitment we were willing to commit to go defend, this idea of freedom and democracy around the world.
Definitely. And like you said, those, even in the smallest nations you can think of, I've ran into them across the battlefields, helping us either do fob security or run loggy stuff. And that helps us be able to do our missions. And you got
Exactly.
to see firsthand as special operations, you get to see that firsthand as they're standing next to you most of the time as you're trying to build them up as you do your missions. And I'm sure that lightened the load on you a little bit to know that you were actually helping them to raise their defenses while you were still getting your feet wet before you had to go back to Iraq.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, doing security force assistance and foreign internal defense stuff, although it didn't sound sexy at the time, it was crucial. It was crucial. Uh, and again, you know, the more that we worked with partner nations and we saw their professionalism, their development, and you knew that they had the ability to at least, you know, patrol their waters, keep their borders safe, you know, identify, track, do whatever they had to do to, you know, for, you know, I'll just use bad guys. I was going to say insurgency, but it's, you know, it was broader than that, but it allowed you also the freedom of focus to focus on the bigger task, the next task, that, you know, we didn't have to always be running around the archipelagos of the Southeast Pacific like our forefathers did in World War II, you know, during the Pacific campaigns.
Right. And just basically island hopping until they made it to Japan to
Right.
finally, well, before we got to Japan and ended it, and then occupied Japan for a little bit, and still in Okinawa to this day. Stephanie, during this whole time, you probably at the first part, the communication was probably horrible, because I know for my wife it was horrible at the beginning because there wasn't cell phone, there wasn't internet. It was just hope and pray that you get a call once in a while. How did you cope with all this as he was going through these changes?
Well, first, you're right. It was back in the days of snail mail. So you would always get kind of an idea or an estimate of, I will probably be able to call you on this date or this weekend. And so I would forewarn all my family. I would do every chore. If I had to go to the grocery store, it was going to be done before the weekend, because that weekend I was not moving from that house. And if anybody called me, they were going to get hung up on right away, because I just felt like my luck. He'll try to call and get a busy signal. Again, this is before call waiting, you know, the minute I answer the phone. So I would tell everybody, do not even try to reach out to me this weekend. I'm waiting for a call from Dan. And yeah, it was, I used to keep a spiral bound notebook and write to him, you know, dates, just kind of journal entries, basically, you know, just sometimes they were just only 4 or 5 sentences, and I would do a week's worth and then tear it off and put it in the mail and send it off to him. You know, I always gave myself projects to do while he was gone. So, you know, organize a closet. I'm going to do that while Dan's gone this time, because it helped me buy my time, keep me busy, gave me something to engage in and focus on. And I always felt like I accomplished something, so that when he came home, I felt like I had something to show off. You know, look what I did, you know. So there was always something to move forward with. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but like I said, I just kept busy. Oh, and I did not ever watch the news. I never watched the world news. If I wanted to listen to news, it was always local news, because I was already worried enough, being that I know he was going places that I knew a general region of the world that he was going to be in, but I did not know the specifics. But I had a rule of thumb that when he was gone, I did not watch the news.
Sometimes that's the best thing. And then my wife finally learned that after my second deployment, not to watch the news anymore. And it helped her tremendously not to watch the world news, like you said. Just listen to whatever the weather is in your hometown and maybe find out what roads not to drive on. That's the best thing to do. And stay occupied. Everything you said is kind of like what her playbook was. Just stay busy, keep her and my daughter busy, make sure my daughter didn't get to see all the craziness on the TV, and just kind of drive forward, keep her involved with every kind of sport or extracurricular activity possible to keep them both busy.
Yeah. That was kind of my rule too, once kids came along, was I would ask people to, not talk about, the bombings wherever, or whatever was going on in the news, to not talk about it in front of the kids. I couldn't protect them from everything that they would hear, but I could do my best to protect them from what they would hear when they were around me. So,
and that's the best medicine right there. And we got a question for you already, Stephanie, from the audience. This said, from left of center 5, Stephanie, what advice would you share with the military spouses navigating deployments, relocation, and identity shifts? Thank you, left of center.
Treat them as adventures. Another skill to learn. And you look forward to, even though it might be hard saying goodbye to some of the best friends you've ever met in your life, you have to look forward to it and think, if it wasn't for this move, I never would have met these fabulous people. So what is the next move going to bring for me? Get out and explore the area. Find things that, like I said, will keep you busy and occupy your time, so that you can continue to grow too. And whether that's taking on a job, I took on a couple of part-time jobs here and there that would just, like seasonal jobs, that would just keep me busy and help me meet people and get familiar with the area once we moved there. And again, the first few moves we ever did, Northern California, San Francisco area, this was before Google and GPS. And so everything was by, the old paper maps. And that was quite the adventure. But I would take myself out on drives with the old paper map, doors locked, and a full tank of gas, so I didn't get stranded anywhere. And I would just go exploring, meet your neighbors. It's, like I said, a lot of the times the people that you end up living close to, you're in a military community, even if you're not in housing. So you are bound and determined to meet some really fabulous people that either are also in the military and have a lot of experience living the life that you're living, or are very patriotic and supportive of the military and those who are back home.
Definitely. I remember the big Atlas books that we used to have, and then they'd wind up with the seat in the car all like crumpled up, and you try to figure out where you are, and you can't find that page anymore. So
yeah, I still have it.
I was gonna say, I'm laughing because we still have it.
Yeah, it's my memories.
I just saw it last week. It was folded up in the back of my truck.
Yeah.
Where's Montana at? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Awesome. And don't feel bad, Dan. You got a question here too now.
Oh,
they get you too here.
They see why I keep asking Stephanie stuff.
Real World 7 Strangers. Dan, after 3 decades in special operations, what was the hardest part about transitioning into civilian life? They took one of my questions. All right. Thank you, Real World Strangers.
That's a great question. That's a great question. It was, man, everything was hard. Everything was hard about it. The life in special operations, you always have your teammates, and you create bonds like nobody else. And when we say brotherhood, or these are my brothers, we don't say it arbitrarily. We mean that. I mean, we get so close to each other, as many of you know, that it's blood. These are your family, and you love these guys like your own kin. And I knew when I was retiring out of my last role up in Virginia Beach, I knew I was moving down to Florida. We had come down here on a tour prior to my assignments up in Virginia Beach, and bought a house down here. Just kind of fell in love with the Tampa Bay area, and just realized this is where we want to, start the next chapter, whatever that is. So we knew we were going to leave everything that we had created up in Virginia, in the Virginia Beach area. And when I got into the special operations community, I did my one tour in San Diego, and then transitioned to a SEAL team out of Virginia Beach, and got selected to be a part of that. And I spent, essentially the next 14 years living in the Virginia Beach area. So my kids had the fortune of growing up and going to school and doing everything in the same community, because Dad would just shift from one base to the next, and it was seamless to them. It was a transition for me, but it was seamless to them. But when I was getting ready to retire, my kids were grown. When I started out, I was 19, had nothing. I didn't even have a car. I found a wife, my partner in life, my soulmate, as people say, but definitely, the person I can't live without. And then we started a family. I created a career. We had kids. Our kids grew up. My son got married. He had a daughter and one on the way when I was standing on the retirement stage, saying my words to the command. And it was amazing to see all the things that we had created during that time. And I never took the time to appreciate, but I knew that I was going to be walking away from my teammates for the most part, right? Yeah, we're in the age of social media and all that stuff, but most of us don't have that stuff. But there's texting and things like that, so we keep in touch, but it wasn't going to be the same. So walking away from that was tough. The other thing that was hard is I really didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, kind of mentality, right? What are you going to do when you retire? What are you going to do? Have to do something, even though I was retiring after 30 years with a 75% pension, and I was able to, I think I could have maintained a quality of life without going back to work, except my wife would have gone nuts because, I thought I could take on all these home improvement projects and found out that I'm not very good at any of them. So she decided I need to go back to work. So I had to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to put my efforts. And I really didn't know my purpose and what that was and how I was going to leverage that. Fortunately for me, though, when I was going through my last 9 months in and beginning my glide path into retirement, I did go through the Honor Foundation back in January of 21. And it was going through that program. I had done MilTap, I had done Executive Tap, I had done the TAP GPS programs, and they were helpful, but they just weren't enough. It was, and some of the things that they recommended as roles that I should maybe look into, none of them resonated with me, right? But it was in the Honor Foundation where going through some of the assessments, going through the curriculum, working with the coaches, working with the staff that were there, everyone was so genuinely interested in helping me find my next path. And it didn't come right away with clarity out of that course. I just had some tools. And then when I moved down here to Tampa, reestablishing, ourselves now as empty nesters. So it was just Stephanie and I, and, I didn't have a job. I was home all the time from being gone, 200 plus days a year to, being home, 24/7 for, I think it was a little bit of a test, were we just married for the service and staying together? Were we married just for the kids? And obviously it was none of that. We are truly meant to be together. And that was an amazing, affirmation and for us to know that we are going to run this life all the way to the end together, but still had to figure out what I was going to do during that 24/7 to keep her from changing her mind on that affirmation. And that was, I think, the hardest. But through that process, you can find folks, like Stephanie said. We moved to Tampa as a military community of MacDill Air Force Base. And we started running into people, more and more people. Then people from our past started moving down here. And we started creating our own little community of friends and network and started rebuilding those military family communities. But now it was military retired family communities. And they were still just as equally as impactful and important to us. So it was hard to be walking away from the tribe. It was hard not knowing what I wanted to do when all these years I was doing what I truly love to do. And everyone knows that a military career, it has, it's on a time clock. You're going to retire at some point. You can only hold on for so long. I held on for 31. So I was really holding on to the last, thread that they offered me. Right. And, I think they might have even been trying to kick me off at one point because I was holding on so tight, but refinding all that and then having that purpose, like knowing that what I love to do every day and going into work, that it didn't feel like work. I was going to do what I'm supposed to do every day. And it filled my, it filled my batteries. I was energized throughout the day. trying to find something equivalent to that was daunting, and it was intimidating. But I have to also throw a plug here. But it wasn't for the Honor Foundation. It opened my eyes, helped me learn to network, helped me to understand my stories and the things about me that make me uniquely different, not just what I did, but how I did it, and then the reasons why I did it. That was able to help me. That was able, or say, was a catalyst to get me into rooms with people, to let them start understanding and recognizing the value I potentially could bring to organizations, and that opened a lot of doors for me.
Outstanding. Now that we've you talked about the Honor Foundation a little bit, I was looking for a way to segue into it. You just helped me out a lot there. One or both of you, since I think Stephanie, you're the program director, right, in Tampa.
No, Daniel's the program director. I'm his coordinator.
Coordinator and director of programs, program coordinator. Tell us about the Honor Foundation, how it started, and what it actually does for the special operations community.
So Honor Foundation has been around for 11 years. Right around 2014, it opened its first campus in San Diego. And it was born out of the recognition of a need for special operators to be able to break those thresholds that I talked about that I had a difficult time with, right? Helping people to recognize what your unique value is that you bring into organizations. It's a little easier when you come from traditional technical skills like cybersecurity, information warfare, intelligence, administration, aviation mechanic, any of those kind of skills typically, or trades typically have some correlation into the private sector. But when you meet people and they're like, oh, what'd you do in the military? And you say Green Beret, Ranger, SEAL, SWCC, MARSOC Raider, or any of the, the Air Force PJ, CCT community, you mention any of the soft, elements, it's interesting to them, and it will create some good conversation, but typically they don't walk away from those conversations knowing your unique value that you bring to any institution as a person from that cut of cloth. So the Honor Foundation was born out of the recognition that guys were just they were underachieving in the civilian sector because they were having a difficult time explaining to people what they had done, the things they had learned, and how that was applicable and beneficial for an organization. And then it's, through those programmatics that we have developed over that, 11-year span, that we are now able to, I think, get more and more people to recognize the unique and elite capabilities that these individuals bring, and translate those elite capabilities into a context where they're understandable, relatable, and ultimately memorable for those in the private sector, and recognize the value proposition they bring to any organization.
Outstanding. Stephanie, what is your role as the coordinator down in Tampa?
I am the behind the scenes girl, the coordinator. I help. So every cohort class, we cater dinner. So I do everything from setting up the caterers to making sure the communication platforms, different platforms that we use for assignments and communications, that those are all up to date weekly. Just all the behind the scenes schematics with the different volunteers for like our resume reviews, our LinkedIn profile reviews, our mock interview event. Behind the scenes, Dan's biggest cheerleader, and kind of team room mom.
Yeah, she is.
But really, I'm not old enough to be their mom, so maybe big sister would probably be better.
Yeah.
You keep them all in line, I hope. So that helps out.
Yes, sir.
Dan actually said you're the muscle behind it in his email. He said make sure she's mentioned her as my guiding light through this. So I want to make sure I shared that he made sure that you were same pedestal as him for the honor. So you make the magic happen.
She does. I mean, we talk about things being force multipliers, in environment. Stephanie's a force multiplier. She has a lot of time being around special operators at all levels and special operations. She's been, the detachment mom, the troop mom. She's been, the command master chief's wife, lead of the ombudsman programs and things like that. She understands it well. So when she communicates with these guys and gals that are going through the course and they start getting a little uppity, or they start getting lost, or they have difficult times working, navigating some of the platforms, as Stephanie mentioned, that we use to help the fellows as they're working through the programmatics. She just kind of becomes that re-encouraging force, and that kind of that individual that nobody wants to, you don't want to let down Stephanie. That carries over, and it's a driving factor. You can see a lot of them, they'll talk to me about certain elements of the course or curriculum, or working with different faculty. But when it comes to things with their life, their schedule, their kids being sick and they're going to have to miss, they run that all through Stephanie, and she takes care of the scheduling, the day-to-day battle rhythm, and orchestrates that in a way that, it's calm, it's elegant, and, and it brings a sense of grace to the classroom that they need through this ambiguous time in their lives. So she's, like I said, she's a massive force multiplier.
Thank you. It's outstanding to have. And you probably bounce stuff off each other all the time to make sure you're doing things right. And she, of course, makes sure the food's going to be right. So everyone's happy when the food's right. Everyone's going to be happy anyway.
Yeah.
Especially it's good in there. So it's good.
Teamwork makes a dream work.
That's right. That's right.
Another question from the audience. This for either one of you, I guess. At Same Dirt, Different City 0311, what makes the Honor Foundation different from other veteran transition programs? Thank you, Same Dirt, Different City.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's our emphasis on the special operations community. So that's the special operators, right? And we adhere to the soft truths out of USSOCOM. So the first soft truth being, people are more important than hardware. We recognize that, and we honor that too, that it's about the people, right? And also one of the soft truths, the fifth soft truth, is that most special operations cannot be completed without enabling support. So we open the doors also to all the individuals that make up the USSOCOM enterprise. So that's the special operators and the enablers that fall under that, under that umbrella. So we laser focus on them. And then I think some of the other things that has always drawn me to the way we do the program is we do things in a cohort environment. It's like being back in the team room. You learn better when you're around each other. It's not a military, type course where, you got an instructor in front of the room and everybody's sitting there sweating it out. It's conversational. It's designed to create, a discussion, and to share, us to share our lessons learned from our journey from active duty into the private sector, but also have them share their experiences. And they talk about things from everything from people they've met through networking to experiences with the VA and their VSOs to, different concerns with their final PCS move or whatever it is that they're going to do. So it just builds that camaraderie, and it creates that first kind of, external network, but within the internal safety of coming from, the same environment. So I think that's also uniquely different, is the way we do the cohort environment over that extended period of time of 12 weeks. And then I would say the last thing is that we really, really focus on, for the first month, we don't talk about jobs. We don't talk about resumes. We don't talk about networking. What we talk about is learning who you are outside of the uniform. When you take the uniform off, who are you when you're just doing you? What's important to you? And what are you willing to sacrifice as you move into this next phase of life to go back out to work? And we call that, outlining your preferences. And, we lay several preferences in front of them, and we let them list them in their priority order. And by doing so, they start to recognize that maybe they're not pursuing money. Maybe they're looking for a work-life balance. Maybe they're looking to give back and they want to be around people that they enjoy being around. That culture and that environment's important. Or maybe it's the mission, right? Doing something that fills your purpose and ignites your fire to be there every day, so that when you get back when you're in the private sector, you have to walk into your closet and try to think about, what am I going to put on every day? It's not this daunting mental exercise. It's like, no, I'm going to do this. I got to get dressed. And when you're driving to your commute, you're not cursing at the commute. You're excited to get to where you're going, because for whatever one of those preferences that motivates you, that's what you're living in again, and you're getting that similar fulfillment you had in that of purpose and uniform.
Outstanding. And I like that you said you take care of the enablers as well, the enablers from the community. And when they apply, do they apply while they're still in the unit and it's vetted via 214 or through the records that they were in the unit, or does anyone slip through?
Yeah, so it's for the enabling side of the force, they have to be actively assigned under orders to a U.S. SOCOM component command or headquarters. For the special operators, it's open to them while they're active duty. But if they decide, and it's because we know our brothers are sometimes determined to go it alone, or they're going to figure it out, and they walk away, and then they realize, after a little while that they need the tribe, they need some more tools in their toolbox, they need some more refining, and then we always welcome them back to the Honor Foundation to go through the program. But we try to get folks between the 12 and 18 month period of their final year and a half in their career, and then for the enablers, they have to be actively assigned. Now, if I'm not going to say there's always exceptions to the rules, but there's exceptions to the rules, right? There's some unique folks out there who spent a great deal of their career serving special operations in some capacity, and just by needs of the parent service, they could promote themselves out of the organization because they have to go take a leadership tour somewhere, or at some point the service says, "Hey, you've been there too long, and now we need you somewhere else." We're not going to fight that. We're going to allow them to do that while they're under SOCOM, but we do recognize that commitment. So if folks have a unique amount of tenure in supporting special operations, we will take that into consideration, and through our process of prioritization, if there's space, we want to make sure that we can serve them as well and give back to them for all the years they committed to supporting the operators in the community.
Awesome. One last question from the audience we'll take here. This one is mine, not yours. Not yours. If a veteran listening today feels stuck or unsure of their next step, where should they begin? Thank you. Mine is mine, not yours.
If you feel stuck about taking the first step, there's tons of resources. If you're a veteran already, it means you're out. So, explore the local resources in your area, and there's tons of stuff online. If you're not in the special operations community, you never served in the special operations community, there are several great organizations out there that can help you and serve you. We have an amazing program called Vector Accelerator that we serve all of the conventional forces through the Vector Accelerator program. And what that is basically a condensed version of the honor program, focused particularly on that uniqueness of who are you, what's your purpose, what's your driving force, and helping them identify who they are outside of uniform, and then helping them create some of those critical talking points and being able to tell their story. So there's Vector Accelerator internal to us, but there's other great resources out there. Reach out to your Chamber of Commerce too. A lot of Chamber of Commerce in every city has some sort of veteran program built into them. Tap into them as well. They're a great resource to connect you to different organizations that are out there, like Hiring Our Heroes, Hiring Heroes, other nonprofits involved in the transition space, and can also open some doors in some of the networking lanes if you haven't done so through your transition time.
Yeah, just to add to that networking piece, networking is a fabulous way for you to kind of meet people, but also inquire about different areas of industry or just different lanes that you think you might be interested in, but you're not really sure, and you're just trying to find out more information about it. It's a great way to do some research. And you should always end every conversation with, after talking with me, is there anybody else that you think that I would benefit by talking to, and get continued leads. Networking is an amazing tool.
Yeah, we model our networking process with our fellows after the 50 cups of coffee concept that, was the article that came out, and I think it was Incorporated magazine several years back about if you meet one person, when you're done with that, you should ask them about, one or two that you can connect with, and then that one becomes three, and then that three becomes five, and so forth and so on. And by a short amount of time of connecting with people, you can develop 50 touch points. And through those 50 touch points, you can explore, learn, and maybe narrow your focus down on areas that you want to put your efforts towards and pursuing. But getting started is, Stephanie nailed it. Talk to people, just like you did in service when you would talk to your teammates and your team members around the commands and organizations that you were assigned to learn about, just how to get to the chow hall, or what time is formation, do we tuck our shirts in or don't we, or whatever, whatever other little things that are sometimes unit specific and organization specific, and how that impacts you. You would ask folks that. Do that same thing on the outside. When you're talking to someone, you're buying a house and you're talking to a realtor, and the realtor you're with, ask them, how much do you like this job? What drew you to being a realtor? Is this something that you think would be good for someone who's maybe a little older to get into? What kind of qualification, certification, education do you need to do this? Just keep asking people questions. You'd be surprised on how many people would love to share, one, what they do, and then two, they love to communicate with veterans. We have a lot of amazing patriotic folks who never put on the uniform, but they want to do something to give back. And sometimes just talking with you and sharing their story can help you to refine and define elements of yours that you never thought about before.
100%. And I shared the article from Inc. magazine to audience, Misfit Nation. You can see it in the chat right now. The Inc. magazine article on how 50 cups of coffee can change your life is in there. I've never heard of it before, so now I'll read it. Thank you. So I learned every show. I learned something new. Thank you, Dan. As we get close to a couple minutes here, usually two questions we ask our guests as we start to trail off. The first one is, what's the best way to get in contact with you if anyone in the audience wants to chat with you, or maybe have you on their show to talk about the Honor Foundation or your service?
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to share our story and share, our pathway and all. And I'm passionate about the Honor Foundation, so it's one of my favorite things to talk about because I'm a believer in it. But dan@honor.org is my email, and that's I think the easiest way to get a hold of me. Stephanie's is stephanie.snyder@honor.org. You can reach out to her as well. Even if we can't serve you through the Honor Foundation, we are happy to be a connecting tissue to someone else, because, just because we're part of this organization and we're passionate about the mission and we love the tribe of folks that we serve, we care for all veterans. And if it's, through one of our umbrella programs, we can help you out, or if it's connecting you with one of the other folks. Because one thing about the nonprofit space is we recognize that no one nonprofit can solve all the problems. No one nonprofit can provide all the information. There's a lot of great entities out there, and we have taken our time to learn those folks, know who they are and what they do, and we are happy to connect you to them as well, if that's what needs be to get you on path. But dan@honor.org is the easiest way to get a hold of me. And I don't know if I answered the whole question.
Can I just add, if anybody is interested in applying for the Honor Foundation program, or even Vector Accelerator, they could head to honor.org and apply there. And that's for any of our campuses. Yeah.
And honor.org is going across the bottom of the screen right now, and it was also in chat earlier. Thank you for sharing the contact information. Now it's the hard question. This one here is the one that puts you in the hot seat for both of you. What's 3 things the Misfit Nation can start doing tomorrow to be better people?
You want to go first?
Yeah. Okay. I'll go first. In service, we learn to lead with grace and humility. Continue to carry that, and through that, continue to reach out to those that you served with and those that you come across. You don't always know what what big rocks people are carrying in their rucksack, and sometimes just reaching out and having a phone call and reminding them that someone cares and that they matter to somebody may just be enough to help them lift that thing back up and stick it on their back and keep moving. And don't ever stop staying connected to this wonderful group of people that make up America, and that's the U.S. veteran. That's one. Two, live with purpose. Find your purpose. Find those things that fill your cup. Recharge your batteries. Try to eliminate the ones that drain you. Although it's harder to do, but if you can, do something like being in the Honor Foundation fills my recharges my batteries. Doing it with my wife fills my cup, and it fulfills so many of the goals that I set for myself in retirement when I started learning what those goals were and started understanding them and writing them down. Pursue that. Those opportunities are out there. Service members are incredible people who do a lot of things. And just because, you were an infantryman or a truck mechanic or you were an ordnance person or whatever, odds are you probably spent a large portion of your day doing other things outside of that technical role. You were leading, you were managing, you were dealing with budgets, you were dealing with logistics, you were dealing with a lot of regulatory and other matters that are uniquely sought after by folks in the private sector. Take time and reflect on those values as well, because you can be a value added, not just in the Department of War now enterprise. You can be a value added anywhere you go, and you just have to know what that is and be able to and want to apply yourself. Because you give a service member or a veteran an opportunity, they're going to turn that into success, because that's what they were trained to do. They weren't trained to do anything other than win. So when you have a person with the mentality of winning is what my end state is, and you give them something that they're passionate to pursue, they're going to win. So that's two, is go pursue those things and do it with the same attitude you had when you were in service. And the last thing I would say is, quick story. I had a teammate, his name was Rhino, his nickname. He used to tell me every day, "I love you, Dan." He was one of my closest teammates. He was my ops master chief when I was in command, and he used to drive me nuts that they would say that to me, right? And it kind of felt nandy-pandy or some crap, but he would always say it, and I knew he meant it too. And that was, I think, the harder part for me to accept. As events, tragedies, transitions in life, things come along, you start realizing that it's important to tell people you love them, and tell those that you love them, and say it to someone every day. If it's your spouse, say it to your spouse every day. If it's your kids, say it to your kids every day. If it's a dear friend, let them know. It doesn't have to be weird. And for some reason, for me, it was weird. And now I tell people all the time that I love them when I'm talking to them. And it just makes you feel better, and it really feels good to feel good.
Outstanding. All right, Stephanie, you're up to bat. It's hard to follow.
Well, I'll try to keep mine short. Faith is the first one. Keep your faith, regardless of what your faith background is. Faith is a strong pillar that can help you through anything. The second one is time. Time is the one thing we cannot get back. And a great person that I know once said, stop putting off what you want to do tomorrow, someday, what you can do today. So they might be little accomplishments, but make those plans, make those dreams come true. And the third one is, I believe, say a kind word, even if it's a complete stranger. If somebody walks by you and you like their shirt, compliment them. If you like the cologne or the perfume they're wearing, tell them they smell good. You have no idea what kind of a day or phase in their life that they may be going through. And just a kind word might change things in a whole completely different direction for them.
That's 3 great ones. And like you said, a lot quicker. Awesome. That was a great, all 6 of them were good ones. And Misfit Nation, please write them down and try to put them into your daily lives. So maybe you can make someone else have a better day and make yourself have a better day and get to have a better day. Dan and Stephanie, thank you for taking some of your time tonight from cold Tampa, where it's 60 degrees in the hoodie weather, and hanging out with us here in this humid, hot day of 33 degrees here in Clarksville, Tennessee. We appreciate you and appreciate your time and everything you're doing with the Honor Foundation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate the opportunity. And thank you for what you guys are doing at Misfit Nation. It's a wonderful platform.
Appreciate you. Have a good night.
You too.
Misfit Nation, remember, you are loved. You are needed. A day tomorrow is 100% better with you in it than it is without you. So that permanent solution to a temporary problem. Reach out, talk to someone, reach out to your tribe. Dial 988. Take option 1 if you're a veteran. If you're not a veteran, follow the prompts. Let them help you. If you don't want to call them, contact us. info@themisfitnation.com, Steven@themisfitnation.com, or Jake@themisfitnation.com. We will listen to you. We will take care of you. We will do what we can to get you over that hump and make sure that you're with us tomorrow. Until next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.